Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Parenting is Easy, said no one ever. Today, we have a topic that, at least as a parent myself, this is something that I'm always curious to know more about. And our guest today is Liana Kontos, who is a board-certified naturopathic doctor and is also a diet and lifestyle intervention practitioner. She has been trained at the Cleveland Clinic of Wellness under Dr. Esselstyn. Did I pronounce that right?
Excellent.
Dr.
That's
Esselstyn. Okay. She is also a certified in plant-based nutrition and certified nutritional trainer. She has a lot of information to give us that can help us both regarding our kids at home and at school. And without further ado, Liana, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
So for people that have not known what's going on behind the scenes, this is actually our second recording. Our first recording was over a year ago, but just guess the way God runs the world, we had to do this recording over again. So here we are, so excited to actually have you on and share things with us parents as we go about the concept of the importance of nutrition in our kids' well-being at home, at school, socially. I'm curious, when someone comes to you and is saying, hey, we have some things going on at home with our kids, where do you sort of start, and what are the basics that you talk about with parents when it comes to their diet and how they have food both in the home, how they feed their kids in general?
This is going to be an interesting answer out of the gate because I'm probably going to answer unlike most doctors or healthcare professionals. And I have a background too in cognitive behavior therapy. I'm not a therapist like you, but this is so important to honor and respect your children's personalities. We're all different. So I find out, if it's a home, hopefully where there's a mother and a father or two parents, I find out, what they do for a living and what their schedule is. And I find out about the children and what they're like and what they don't like and what their personality is and, what they're involved in and what their loves are. Maybe some are in sports or not and all of that. Maybe one's a bookworm and, one's an athlete. But I find out about the dynamic of the family, and it really doesn't take that long to do because I tell people, look, the more honest you are with me, the more I can help you. So then step 2 is now I understand. And now I can guide them based on what is going to land easier with them, as if I just come in and they're, mom and dad are like, here, we've hired this doctor and you're going to do this and you're going to eat that. And this is bad and this is good. That doesn't work. We all need respected if we're 6 years old or 5 years old or 12 years old or 21 years old. We all need respected. So whether that child, obviously the parent is in control. If they're young, you're talking about, preschool and kindergarten and grade school, you've got a lot more control. But if you've raised them to be respectful around food and let them participate in, your food choices based on their personality, then by the time they go off to college, it's an easy road to hoe because they get it. So bottom line, after I do that, I really talk about, and if I can get the children in with a consult with the parents, that's helpful. But bottom line is I ask them then if I can be really honest with them. I'm like, you've been honest with me. Now can Dr. Liana be honest with you and just tell you a few things? And I mean, very few people say no. Everyone's like, oh, yes, sure. And so then I go in and keep it really simple. And I tell them about certain food groups that honestly are dangerous. And we're not taught that. It's not taught in medical schools. It's not taught in nursing schools.
What do you mean by dangerous?
So dangerous is a dangerous, touchy, negative word, right? So the way I put it is I don't come out and say to them, oh my gosh, this is so dangerous. This promotes disease. This is terrible. And I'm going to start with dairy out of the gate. And that makes everybody go a little crazy.
And why is that? What is it about dairy that can be dangerous?
Right. I'll share that with everyone. And what I do is I share based on their personality why this would be bad for them. So talking about dairy and what the problem is, and I want to start out too and share that this isn't my opinion. It's not my take on food. This is based on gold standard peer reviewed science on the largest nutritional study done on human beings in the history of mankind. It's done in the China study. Dr. Campbell from Cornell trained me for 6 years. So dairy is a tumor promoter. Dairy promotes cancerous tumor growth. That's out of the gate, the gobsmacked hit you in the head with a 2x4 statement. But dairy leaches minerals from your bones and teeth. Dairy paralyzes that peristaltic action in your gut, the squeezing action that moves your food through your GI tract. Dairy causes constipation. Dairy causes acne, ear, nose, and throat, allergies, brain fog. It's just a really bad player. It's a very acidic food. So you want your body to be in pH balance. Your blood needs to stay in a really narrow pH range. And so dairy is a very, very acidic food. So it's bad for your bone health, promotes acne, bad for your skin, bad for your ear, nose, and throat, bad for your gut. But it promotes tumor growth.
Are we talking about like all dairy, or are we talking about things that have lactose inside of it? Or is there a difference if it's lactose?
All. Any liquid from a cow, a sheep, a camel, or a goat. Doesn't matter if it's organic milk or 2%, 1%, and all those products that go with it. So what I do really quick is say we've got, I'm making this up, say we've got a 12-year-old girl and the boy's, 17 years old and he's on the football team. So I explain, this promotes really bad skin because no one that's 12 or 17 wants bad skin and to go to school. No one wants ear, nose, and throat. They get colds a lot with dairy. And then it's really tough on the GI tract. And if you're an athlete, you need, the muscles to work, you need energy and all of that. Dairy is just a bad player. So now they're paying attention because I've talked their language. I didn't just say, hey.
Which I think is a very big thing when we're talking to kids in general, not just regarding nutrition, talking the language that they understand. So if we're saying no to something, it's not because I'm the authoritarian person. I'm saying no because it's not good for you in that situation. Obviously, when it comes to food, it's the same thing. But as you're talking, I think the biggest thing that's coming up for me is we live in a world here in America, and I'm sure it's in many other countries as well, where every 2 steps that you take, there's another product out there that's being sold that's dairy, from the ice creams to the coffees and everything in between, and the pizzas, obviously. First of all, how did we get there where it's so relevant and prevalent all around us? And at the same time, how are we supposed to, as parents, tell our kids to stop doing something that the entire world is doing? It's sort of like telling your kid, don't go on electronics, right? It's almost like that equivalent of it being so readily available and accessible to all of us in everything that we do. So how do we balance that?
Great. How do we navigate all this? Well, I'm going to talk parent to parent here. First of all, it's business. It is business. Dairy is an industry, like the Beef Council is an industry. Pharmaceutical drugs are industry. And I was trained by medical doctors. I'm not against medicine. There's a time and a place, but no, dairy is an industry. It is a for-profit industry. The food industry is a for-profit industry. So make no mistake, they will do whatever they can to market, sell, make it, sexy, exciting. You're absolutely right. It is a business. It's a money game. The food industry is an absolute money game. So we as parents and adults, we get that. So how do you navigate it? And it starts young. It does. It starts young. And the good news is if you've got really young children, and toddlers, you can switch that out and they don't even know. And I'll tell you, years ago in my practice, it was more difficult, but it's 2023 now. And there are dairy substitutes. And I have these in my programs. There are dairy substitutes out there. And I want to be really clear. A lot of it's fattening. A lot of it's junk food. But there's plant-based dairy substitutes that are really easy to switch out. And your taste buds change in about 21 days. They downregulate. So, and I equate this to, so you can shift some plant milk in there, not soy, not cashew milk. That's really hard on the gut. But there's some, low sugar, low fat,
Can you give
organic.
Some examples?
Yeah, sure. You want to look so they don't have gums in them, like xanthan gums is kind of hard on the gut, but do low sugar, low fat, like look for under 5 grams of sugar and under 5 grams of fat, honestly, per serving.
From
Look
what
for
are we
low
talking? Are we
calorie, low
talking
sugar.
almond milk and macadamia milk and cashew milk? You say not cashew milk? That's not a good one.
No, I'll tell you the good, the bad. The good is you can do organic almond milk because almonds have a high level of glyphosate, which is the weed killer that's sprayed on our food. So organic almond milk. You could do non-GMO oat milk, hemp milk, rice milk, flaxseed milk, and try the ones, experiment. And you're going to say, okay, this isn't bad. And you'll start to like it because your taste buds change. No cashew milk and no soy milk because it's really hard on the gut, actually can promote leaky gut, chips away at your gut lining. Be careful with coconut milk. It's full of saturated fat. So anything else, do low sugar, low fat. And I'm telling you, most kids, you don't even notice the difference. And so if you start young and switch that out, there's a lot of easy substitutes.
Okay, that's specifically for the milks though. But when it comes to the Hershey's chocolate bar or the Turkey Hill ice cream or, the coffee that you might be getting in some of these mom and pop stores where they don't necessarily have all these type of milks, what are the substitutes for there? And I would say the biggest proponent and the biggest uphill battle I see as well is in the social aspect of things. And
Right.
how do we navigate that?
No, absolutely. And here's the key. It's not about being disciplinarian around it. It's about education. It's totally education is the master here. Now I get it. If you're talking about a 2 or 3 or 4-year-old, you're in charge, switch it out. I teach parents all the time. Now your child's older and it's about education. I'm a mom. That's why I'm here too. And our daughter's in college now. So she totally gets it. And she was the only one that didn't have issues with her menstrual cycle, didn't have, all of that, didn't have acne, any of that. Now, I'll share with you some substitutes and I'll share with you answer the social question. So the substitutes really are easy. And let's be honest, they're like vegetarian as far as the ice cream goes and all that. It's vegetarian junk food. I mean, it's sugar filled, fat filled, but there's lots of oat milk ice creams and all that. I'm going to give you all a super big trick now. And I have to thank my college age daughter for this, but there is something out there. I have nothing to do with this company, by the way. But you know what? As parents, Ninja, actually, they're so smart. They came out with, it's not a blender. It's called Creamy, Ninja Creamy. They're selling off the shelves like crazy. I have nothing to do with Ninja. I don't get anything for this, but get a Ninja Creamy. You can get the Breeze because it's a lot less expensive than the big old Ninja Creamy. You can put oat milk, almond milk, plant milk in there, put a frozen organic banana, and you can put a scoop of plant-based protein in there, add some vanilla, add whatever you want, and whip it up first in a blender, and then you pour them in the little pint-size Ninja Creamy containers, and you freeze them. And then the next night, you have to freeze them, everybody. I learned as a mom, you have to freeze them overnight. But then your kids could make their own. You're putting them in a blender, they're all mixed up, and then you freeze them in the freezer overnight so they can each make their own, put a scoop of plant-based protein powder in there, and you get it to taste good. So your child tastes it before it's frozen. They're like, yeah, that's pretty good. Frozen organic bananas are magical. They make everything sweeter. And then the next day, you connect the frozen pint container into the Ninja Creamy machine, and I'm telling you, it's ice cream. I don't know how it grinds down. So anyway, that's kind of a cool thing to do. I'm even helping people with their aging parents make them Ninja Creamy ice cream that's plant-based, non-dairy. So there's a lot of substitutes. We don't even eat vegan cheese, rare. It's very, very fattening. You know what we do get? And this, again, it's not whole food. It's not perfect. But as far as cheese goes, there's vegetarian, vegan, Parmesan cheese. So if people like that, it's kind of nutty. You can sprinkle on pasta and things like that. But it's education. You get to the point you don't want to eat the cheese. You don't want to drink the milk because you don't want all the symptoms. Once you understand, there's a litany of things that animal milk does to your body. So by the time the child's older, they're like, okay, I get it. They don't want it. The social piece is, you're right. So if your child goes out and they have a piece of pizza with their friends, you know what? It's like you pick the battles so you can win the war. Is it the end of the world? Your child goes to a birthday party and they had a piece of cheese pizza? No, no. Unless they have a severe allergy and
Of
can't have it,
course.
that's
Right.
different. But no, I mean, and now in this day and age, you can order pizzas anywhere and say, you know what? Leave all that melted mozzarella off. We get pizzas at a local Italian restaurant. We'd say they put caramelized onions on it and, veggies and this awesome marinara sauce and caramelized mushrooms. And it's delicious. And then we put our vegan Parmesan on when we get home. They even do like all kind of gluten-free crusts and all that they're getting tastier and tastier. So, we order it or without the cheese. There's actually a lot of options out there.
So when it comes to, I want to get back to the gluten in a minute over here, but it's something that I heard you say now a few times is even though these products that you're talking about would be dairy free, but yet they're not necessarily healthy just because of whatever else is coming on over there of whether it's high cholesterol or sugar or fat content.
They're fattening.
Right.
Yeah.
So what's that balance? Because, there are things that are quote unquote healthier, but yet they might be dairy. So how are we supposed to go about balancing that healthiness, but yet also dairy free? Because it's a little
That is
tough.
such a great question. When you get dairy, I'm promising you, parents out there, when you remove dairy from your world, you are so much healthier. It isn't about, oh my gosh, we've eliminated dairy. Now, what do we replace this with? No, you've saved yourself. You've saved your cognitive health, your cardiovascular health, your digestive health, your reproductive health. You have done so much more for your child and your family. You don't replace it with anything because guess what? Well, I should say you're going to eat more, vegetables, but there's more bioavailable calcium in green vegetables than there is in milk. So it is really hard to absorb dairy. Human beings, and this is a whole nother, I know, touchy subject, but infants are supposed to consume a mother's milk. That's how God made us. I don't judge anybody if they breastfed or didn't breastfeed. I'm not here to be the judge, but we are not made to consume another animal's milk or any of those products. So when you realize that and you realize that you can get calcium and protein and vitamins and minerals so much better and so much more in higher quantities and more bioavailable quantities from plants than you can from dairy, you're golden. You're golden. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. But as you're talking, I guess what's coming up for me also is I understand the concepts that you're talking about regarding the dairy free. And also, this is in many ways, I don't want to say new age science, but let's call it new age just for the sense of, let's say, the past 100 years, the concept of the dairy or the lack that we're not supposed to be having it. This is something that I think people have been using cows for hundreds of years, not thousands of years, for the benefit, not just for the meat, but for the milk as well, because adults don't have the same access like babies do when it comes to having that milk. But at the same time, obviously today we're living a lot longer than we were even 70, 80 years ago. Now, I don't know if there's an exact correlation when it comes to our milk intake. But at the same time, I think there's a level of the way people used to eat years ago that was different. Maybe you could say even healthier, just based on the work they had to do for food and things were not half as processed as they are today. But at the same time, there was a place and a time where it was pretty normal, not to compare it to smoking, where everyone used to do in the 20s and 30s. But lactose, or to say milk, was something that has been used for years. So what happened that more recently it's become something where this is something that we should be staying away from, and these are the risks that are attached to milk?
That's such a great question. So, bottom line, a lot of things happen. If you go back even, centuries ago, well, gosh, sanitation happened. People started soap and water, washing their hands. There was sewers now, there were toilets now and restrooms. So, all of that helped, people get healthier because people were cleaner. There was running hot water, there was soap, there were showers, there were restrooms. So that's huge. And people don't stop to think, Oh my gosh, this is, it was about showering and bathing and washing your hands and cleanliness. There's nothing about, and I won't even get to the whole, pandemic thing right now. But my point is, gosh, there's a lot to be said about taking hot water and soap and, washing your hands and going to the restroom and having, sewage and toilets. And that helped our health tremendously. The other thing, you bring such wonderful, intelligent questions. I love them. So, bottom line, the other thing is, say the 1920s, the 1930s, people still died of heart disease and cancer. My grandfather had a beautiful, beautiful garden, dropped over dead of a massive heart attack at 66 years old, dead before he hit the ground. And my grandmother died in her 70s. People still died of chronic cardiovascular disease. It still was the number one killer. That has not changed at all. The war on cancer is a miserable failure, been a miserable failure.
What do you mean by that?
The war on cancer, like trying to fight cancer, has been a miserable failure. You would think with all the science and all the inventions, it is still killing heart disease, number one, cardiovascular disease, the disease of the blood vessels, number one killer, number two, cancer, still the same, still killing, even more because we have a higher population. But the other thing I want to point out from your question is, and this is important, think about how people lived. Yes, there were cows. Yes, they had milk, but they got up. And you're right, nothing was processed. There wasn't glyphosate yet, the weed killer that's sprayed on all of our food. You can't wash glyphosate off your food. You can't cook glyphosate off your food. It's Roundup, the weed killer made by Monsanto. It's been sprayed around the world since started in the United States. It was registered to be sprayed since 1974. So in the 20s and 30s and 40s, there wasn't glyphosate. Glyphosate's a huge issue that people aren't talking about or maybe don't realize. It's like a silent
Can you talk about that for a minute?
I will. Okay. I just want to finish one quick thought out. I'd love to. So bottom line, people got up early. I have dear friends who their parents were farmers and my great grandparents were farmers, and God bless all of our farmers in this country. So yes, there was the milk and there were cows and all of that. But they got up at 5 a.m. and they were working in the fields, and the women were doing a lot and the men were doing a lot, and the kids helped before they went to school, and people were on the go and moving, and nothing was processed. And, your grandmothers or great grandmothers or great grandparents, I mean, their food was whole, unprocessed, chemical free food. That has a lot to do with it. And the dairy they consume, a little bit. Maybe they did, have a little bit with the rest of their vegetables and fruits that they grew on their land. But they moved. They got up and they moved their body, and they weren't
so
sedentary.
Much more active than we are today.
Oh, and they weren't overeating. They were not overeating. They weren't home all day, and there wasn't food 24/7 on every street corner. They had a nice breakfast, and they worked. They had a little bit of a lunch, sometimes no lunch. And then they had a nice whole food family meal, and that was it. There wasn't all these crazy processed snacks that people were munching and crunching on all night long, where they're watching TV till 11 o'clock at night. So all of that.
If only it was 11 o'clock at night.
That has a lot to do with it. So I hope that, and glyphosate you ask about. So yes, sir.
Yeah. So that's a very big difference. And I think to your point that things are so different today, the way we go about our activity and our intake, that even though cows have been around for a long time and we've been drinking cow milk and using the entire cow for a very long time. And I think you mentioned also, what was it? Goat, camel, and what was the last one?
Cow, camel, sheep, goat.
Sheep as well. So for those four
they
animals,
all make milk.
And all the milks that are received from them were that they're able to give. So we may have been consuming them for hundreds, if not thousands of years, but yet the lifestyle was different. So therefore, how it's been affecting and how it's been something that has really taken a toll on the health of the entire society has been very, very different. So I think that's a very good point, and that's something that comes into play. Does that mean that if our lifestyle and our way of eating and our activity was closer to the 20s or the 20s or the 1920s, would that make a difference for a person having dairy and having cow milk?
Right. Well, as I shared, and I'll tell you some after the glyphosate comment, I'll share a story. I think that'll be very, very helpful for all the listeners. But again, people still died of heart disease and cancer. There were still illness. It's not changed. And the point is, again, it was a very, very different lifestyle. And today, people are going to work and they have candy machines and snack machines and the coffee cart. And then they come into work with their gourmet coffee lattes that are full of sugar and fat and everything else. And it's just one thing into another. And a lot of people are busy. Parents are busy. I get it. We have one child, and God bless you. If you all have more than one child, my hat's off to you, because I worked, my husband worked, and I was a busy, busy mom with, one child, and honored, thrilled I could be a mom. But all due respect to you parents, now you're juggling more than ever. So it was a very different world, a very different life. And again, to your point, it didn't have a lot of the chemicals. The glyphosate is, I'll dive into that if that's okay.
Yeah, please.
Glyphosate is not talked about enough. And it's interesting. I just taught a women's hormone and weight loss class to a lovely group of ladies yesterday. And people don't realize that it is a really deleterious, disruptive chemical. It is a weed killer, and it's Roundup. You can look it up, and Monsanto, big, big, big company, makes it. And the United States in the 1970s said, okay, have at it. You can spray it everywhere. Well, it's been sprayed all over the world. And the worst countries, I'm sorry to say, that it's most prevalent is North America, United States, Canada, and the UK. But it's sprayed all over the world and has been for decades. So what does that mean? It's in our air, it's in our water, it's in our soil, and you can't cook it off your food or wash it off your food. So what it's linked to, glyphosate, the weed killer, is linked to irritable bowel syndrome, Crohn's, colitis, digestive disorders. It's linked to weight gain. It's linked to obesity. It's linked to birth defects, cancer, and high blood pressure. Direct. You can see the glyphosate as it began to be prevalent as a weed killer around the world. And isn't it interesting? Farmers didn't need weed killer. They grew food for, as you said, centuries and centuries and centuries. But all of a sudden, big industry comes. And, we need industry. We have transportation, all that. This is the greatest country in the world. God bless America. But big industry comes with a weed killer, and they could sell it because they sell it to the agricultural community that says, hey, let us protect, so all those insects and things don't eat your tomatoes and corn and peppers and everything that you're making your money on, and sprayed it all over the world. And now glyphosate is pervasive. And if you have hormone imbalance, or your children have, behavior issues or sleep issues or mood issues or depression or weight gain, I want you all to think about something. You make melatonin for sleep in your gut. You make serotonin. Some of your gut cells in your gut make hormones, and your gut communicates with your brain. And 70% of your immune system, which we all know is pretty doggone important, especially post 2020, the majority of your immune system is housed in your gut, housed in your core. Glyphosate destroys your gut health. So there are some things I suggest to help remove it. You could remove it from your body.
From your diet.
And we need to be focused on that.
Yeah, it sounds like something that I think more of us can know more information about. I'm curious if you can share some resources for where people can find more information on how detrimental this can be to us, not just regarding the big company, but regarding the connection between glyphosate and all these sicknesses that you bring up.
Sure. I'll share with you two things. You can absolutely reach out to me at inspiredbywellness.com. I'll share with you. I'm helping parents and kids and get this glyphosate out of your body. You can go to inspiredbywellness.com. Happy to send you information. I'm a mom. I'm a naturopathic doctor. I'm a human being on this planet. So you can go to inspiredbywellness.com. But I want to share with you what a lot of people don't know as a good resource. Don't go to WebMD or Wikipedia or Google things. We all try to be like the Google pro at 2 a.m. We're like, oh, let me look this up. Where you go is the National Library of Medicine. And this will be so helpful for all of you. Just go to pubmed.gov. It stands for public medicine. So pub, P-U-B, like an English pub where you're going to go get fish and chips. PubMed, like Mary Edward David, or short for medicine, pubmed.gov. G-O-V, like short for government.
Wow, okay.
This is the National Library of Medicine. So you can go to the top search bar at pubmed.gov and type in glyphosate and anything else. Glyphosate and weight gain, glyphosate and depression, glyphosate and sleep, glyphosate and high blood pressure for you. You can type anything that you want. I mean, there's a molecule in our body I help people restore. It's called glutathione. You're going to hear a lot about glutathione, especially post 2020.
And where is that coming from?
Glutathione is a molecule that God put in every human, every animal, every plant. And we die without it. It is a molecule. It's in your babies, your toddlers, your children. It's in all of us. You can go to pubmed.gov and type glutathione. And I promise you that doctor, that Liana, she was talking about that. This is going to become a word in the house like Jell-O and Kleenex. Glutathione is Glutathione, glutathione. It is a molecule in all of your cells. Glutathione performs about 400 functions in your body. You can't take a breath without glutathione. Your children can't take a breath without glutathione. Glutathione marries oxygen and your hemoglobin. So I say, if you went and, hypothetically, if you got a hose and like sucked all the glutathione out of your neighbor, they would be dead in 3 to 7 minutes. We can't live without it. No one's taught, well, people are going to start talking about it and I'll help you out. We start losing it about age 19 or 20. And if you talk to a medical doctor, they'll say, okay, glutathione, you're born with a ton and you die with none. So up until now, you talk about updated science. I'll talk to you. I have a story about the dairy, but up until now, and I feel very blessed. I was on some calls actually it was a group call, but with the retired head of cardiovascular anesthesiology at Mass Gen, which you all know is a hospital linked to Harvard Medical School. Well, these Harvard medical doctors heard about a way it's glutathione in a liquid that you can swish it and get it back in your body. And I use it in my practice. I'm happy to send you information about it. Our daughter,
and maybe we will post a link for it in the show descriptions.
Absolutely. It's inspiredbywellness.com. I promise you, I've told the owner of the company, this is so important for people to know. I helped my mom get out of an ischemic stroke with this glutathione in water that's more pure than a hospital IV. And you swish it and get it in your body. So I am helping so many parents, college students, busy parents.
Where did you discover this from? I don't consider myself a maven when it comes to science at all. Even though I'm very curious about the mental health science, but this is something that I've only heard of it honestly because I'm friends with you. But I'm curious for those out there that are either first-time parents or I guess, veterans in the parenting field. I don't think we're ever perfect parents, but the veterans of the field that have been doing it for a long time. Where did this come about? Where did this glutathione be something that has been really big in the science world over the past few years?
No, absolutely. Glutathione is not new. So if you're talking to a registered nurse would probably say, well, wait a minute, I don't remember. Did I learn that in school? And medical doctors will say, oh my gosh, So bottom line, it's not new at all. Glutathione, I'm going to jump back for 1 second and talk about vitamin C only to make a point. Vitamin C, if you said to any parent, oh, vitamin C, let's get some strawberries and oranges and spinach and let's get some vitamin C in you. It's important, right? There's about 73,000 studies on vitamin C in PubMed.gov in the National Library of Medicine. Well, that's pretty impressive. 73,000 studies on vitamin C. Wow. There are, my new friends listening here, there are 173,000 studies on glutathione.
No way, get out.
It is the most studied molecule in medicine. So guess what, everyone? I love to teach people and give you inside information that most people don't know. It is not new at all. And I'll tell you why. I've never had it in my practice until now. And I'll tell you why. Those that get to know me, I'm honest as the day is long. I'm transparent. I'm an open book. I never had a way. I didn't want my patients to waste their money. I never had a way to help them get glutathione in their body unless they went to a medical doctor and got a glutathione IV. And that's $400 to $600 and only lasts 6 hours. And who's going to drive to their doctor's office every day and get hooked up to an IV for 30, 40 minutes? And it's just now in an emergency situation and glutathione IVs. Oh my gosh. Yes, of course. It's great. And it's anti-aging. It keeps you younger. It's fabulous for your brain. Like all of the mental health, all the function of your brain and your liver require far more glutathione than most other organs, but it's in every cell. So it's not new, but you're going to start hearing, and I want to help everyone because, and I don't want to dive off into this rabbit hole, but COVID's coming again. And I'm not, the whole thing and the viruses and the variants and the vaccines, all of that is, and I'm not being disrespectful or saying, you know what, we need to be healthy. But those viruses, that is pneumonia. COVID's pneumonia. And the reason I bring that up is you're going to start hearing from the doctors that really are diving in. My job in March of 2020 was to dive into COVID because that's my job. Well, a lot of healthcare professionals know more than others about the viruses and the variants and all of that. The only reason I'm sharing this is you're going to start hearing doctors and healthcare professionals say, get glutathione, take glutathione, get glutathione. It's going to be kind of this underground, go take glutathione. But it's a big molecule and it's a fragile molecule. So think of like an eggshell or your Nana or grandmother's beautiful fine tea set. It's fragile.
That we
fragile.
never use.
Right. Never use it. We're like, no, that was Nana's. That was great. We can't touch it. But you keep the kids away from it, right? It's in the china cabinet. But it's a very delicate molecule like an eggshell and it's big. So all of the glutathione supplements out there, and there's hundreds of glutathione supplements, and don't ever get a supplement on Amazon, by the way. It's usually tainted, and don't get other stuff from Amazon, but not something that you're going to take. But my point is it's really important to start to learn about this. The powders and pills and all that, the glutathione gets eaten up in the digestive system, never makes it in your bloodstream, never makes it in the cell. So people are wasting money on all these glutathione supplements. And an IV from the doctor is expensive, inconvenient. You can go do that. They only last about 6 hours, so you'd need to go every day. This scientist, now this part is new. Right before COVID, the scientist figured out how to shrink the glutathione molecule to a billionth of a meter and wrap it in water that's more pure than a hospital IV. And you swish it in your mouth for a minute, up to 4 minutes, and swallow it, and there you go. It's like water, and it's in your cells.
What's the point of doing the swishing in your mouth as opposed to just drinking it?
You swish it because it's absorbed by the mucosal lining in your mouth, and it's in your brain and your organs and cells about 70 seconds after you swallow it. It's just extraordinary. And you're going to start hearing.
So for us parents that are, I guess you say, new to this, or they're hearing about this maybe for the first time, I'm curious if you can give some direction of where we can get more information. PubMed, I couldn't say a better place out there to get the proper health and scientific information out there. And most parents are not just going onto PubMed and saying, how is this going to benefit me? So I'm curious if there's some direction regarding where we could get more information on glutathione, or maybe even on the dairy stuff as well, just so that there's a tangible and more pedestrian way of understanding these very, very important but yet complex nutritional values that we need to imprint in our whole family.
Absolutely. I have, and you can go to inspiredbywellness.com. And I say this because I have a free newsletter. Hop on that because I do free calls. Glutathione is so critically and vitally important. I do 2 free calls a week in between patients. Anybody's welcome to listen. I open it up. I believe everybody's time is so valuable. I talk for just under 10 minutes. And then I open it up to live questions. it is about glutathione, because if you don't do anything else for yourself, you're going to want to look, into glutathione. But I do free calls. I have a free newsletter where I just post short, simple, helpful information. I have a very comprehensive frequently asked questions document about glutathione. There's a brochure with white papers and more information about glutathione. If you just reach out to me at inspiredbywellness.com, go in the contact section. I'm happy to send you information.
Inspiredbywellness.com.
Inspiredbywellness.com. And that way you as a parent can make, well-informed decisions for yourself and, your family, because our children need us to live a long time with full cognitive and physical function. I'm in that mode. We get in the sandwich generation where our parents don't age well. We're supposed to age well. And I just implore you as a parent, take your own health seriously. I promised our daughter, I will not be a burden to you. I will never be in a home. You won't have to put me somewhere. I hope I'm vacationing in the south of France or Tuscany with my girlfriends one day and come home and I'm tired and I go to sleep and I just, meet my maker and I'm not a burden at all to my daughter. That's how we're supposed to leave this earth. The way people are aging is heart-wrenching, and it's very difficult on all of you as the adult child, and you're a parent to your own children. So I just implore you, just think about that as a parent. Like, take care of yourself, because you don't want your adult children one day, you don't want to be a burden to them. I know that sounds harsh. The medical doctors at training, we talked about that all the time, but I just implore you, it's not selfish to put your own health first as a parent.
No, if anything, I would say it's more important to take care of yourself so that you can take care of your children and you can be there for them and with them. So there's a lot of information that I think we picked up today, and I'm sure you and I could talk for hours more just on the plethora of different topics and from all the information that you have and your wisdom when it comes to our natural health and our eating and dietary health. Summing it up today, I'm learning a lot about the lactose and dairy products, how that can affect us, glutathione and how important that is as well. And for us to be more on top of it and have to awareness. I'm curious on the topics that we've talked about today. Are there either certain things that we haven't talked about that you might want to talk about in these specific topics? Or maybe there's a question that is usually asked to you by either a client, a patient, or someone that's doing an interview with you that I haven't asked today.
No, absolutely. You did mention gluten. I am a digestive health specialist, so I'll kind of wrap that up. And before I say that, I do want to, if you don't mind, just a super duper quick story about why the animal protein in the dairy. So Dr. Campbell, and I want to give you two references, everyone. I'll give you some homework as a parent, but you're going to love this and I think appreciate this. You asked about references. Get the book, The China Study, on Amazon. It's very inexpensive. The China Study. Dr. Campbell trained me. Him and his son, who's a medical doctor, wrote the book. It details the largest nutritional study done on human beings in the history of mankind. You're going to knock your socks off. You can read a page or two a night. I know you're a busy parent. The China Study. Get that book. Then you can go to Netflix or all that. Ask your kids or teenagers, you can go download a documentary film. It's only 90 minutes. Watch it with your family. Watch it twice. Watch it twice with your family. Watch it 1 week, and then the next week, watch it again with your family and your kids that are old enough to watch it. It's called Forks Over Knives.
Yes.
And the fork is a scalpel over food. Forks Over Knives. I was personally trained by those doctors in the film, Dr. Campbell from Cornell, Dr. Esselstyn from the Cleveland Clinic. Watch Forks Over Knives. It's a 90-minute documentary. It'll change your life. And there's a quick story, and then I'll finish with gluten. I think that'll be helpful for your parents. The quick story is Dr. Campbell, when he was at Cornell, they were summoned, a group of scientists, group of doctors were summoned to the island of the Philippines because the children were dying of liver cancer and no one could figure it out. It was horrible. So they get to the island, they start doing research, and the end of the story is they found out that it was the wealthy, affluent children that were from the families of affluence, the families of wealth, because those children were eating meat and milk, meat and milk, meat and milk, meat, milk, cheese, because they could afford it. So that was the core of their diet in a wealthy, affluent family. The poor children who could not, their families could afford nothing but clean water, rice, some fruit and vegetables. So the children that were not from affluent families grew up on plain rice, fruits and vegetables, and plain clean water because that's all those families could afford. Those were the healthiest children on the planet. No ear, nose, and throat, no allergies, no depression, no anxiety, no issues, no skin issues, no gut issues, no liver cancer in the rice, fruits, and vegetables children in the water. The liver cancer was in the children living on meat, milk, and cheese. And so they go back to Cornell. This was decades ago. This was the late 60s. They go back to Cornell. Can you imagine? They go back to one of the, a prestigious university in the United States, everyone. And Dr. Campbell's like, dare we say, is animal protein killing us? Animal protein is promoting cancer? Like, oh my gosh. So they started doing research. And so they started on rats. Obviously, you can't do cancer research on human beings. So they started with rats because they metabolize protein, kind of similar to human beings. So rats, they were feeding rats organic dairy, and they were growing liver cancer, liver tumors, cancer lesions in their livers of the rats. They pulled the organic dairy away from the rats, and the lesions in the liver cancerous tumors and malignant tumors started to reduce. They were turning cancer off and on with the induction of organic dairy. And so anyway, the whole preponderance of the study is in the book, The China Study, but I just wanted to share that because it's important.
That is amazing.
So to finish with gluten in a nutshell, to help everybody, I know gluten, and you're like, what the heck do we believe? Where do we go? So bottom line, most people are not gluten intolerant, maybe about 15 to 18% of the world. So I'm sharing with you, if you have a child and they're like, oh my gosh, they have ADD or ADHD, or they've got some kind of behavioral issues, or, and they want to put them on, Ritalin or antidepressants and all of these things, I encourage you, stop. Pull dairy and gluten out of their world, make it fun. There's all kind of, gluten-free things that you can do. Dairy and gluten are linked to autoimmune issues. I'm not saying that the whole world has to be gluten-free, but I'm telling you, you will start to, as a parent, you'll start to lose weight, deflate, think clearer. Your skin is better. Your eyes are clearer. You move better. Your joints feel better. So gluten and dairy. So if you have issues with behavior, anything, skin, ear, nose, and throat, all of that, allergies, pull gluten and dairy out. But here's the thing with gluten. It's become, again, the money mongering. It's a business. It's not about going to get all this gluten-free junk food. That's not what you do. So bottom line, most people can tolerate gluten. Only about 15 to 18% can't. And then you go into celiac disease, which is you need to be medically gluten-free. That individual, about 1.5% to 2% of the world, does have celiac disease. You need to be tested and get tested a couple of times so you make sure it's
when
not
should
a false
parents
positive.
start testing for that, or what are the symptoms that a parent should be looking for when it comes
For
to
celiac?
celiac? Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And actually, sadly, but this is easy because that child or that individual or teenager, they will be doubled over in pain. They eat a piece of toast, they eat some cereal, they eat a bite of a cookie, they eat some kind of flour, and they have diarrhea or they have bloat, they have gas. They're like, Mom, Dad, if they're old enough to talk, they're like, they don't feel well. And it's almost immediate. I mean, it. There is a reaction. Bloat, gas, abdominal pain, diarrhea. They're like, oh, they know it. And those households with a celiac individual in them, whether it's a child or an adult, honestly, I'm telling you, I know parents, you don't want to hear this, but it's the truth. That household really needs to be gluten-free because you can't have a crumb of gluten in a toaster.
The environment.
You can't have crumbs on maybe their sibling's plate has, gluten or something on it, crumbs from bread or something, and the sibling with celiac somehow gets it, I mean, they can't have a crumb of gluten. So it's imperative, really, and easier that the whole family is gluten free. But that's only 1 to maybe 2% of the world's population. So don't panic about that. But if somebody is celiac, you're medically gluten free. And you have to tell everybody that, restaurants, everyone, they usually just cook at home. So,
yeah. Okay. So between the gluten free and dairy free and also the how do I pronounce it again?
glutathione.
Glutathione. Okay. So those 3 things, I think there's so much information that we were able to pick up from that. And there are so many things that I think us as parents have to do research for. And whether it's from PubMed, checking out your website as well, and maybe, just becoming more aware of these topics. I think there's a lot that we've taken and we've learned from this. I'm curious to hear from you, just as a parent, as we wrap things up over here. Is there a story or a situation that you would share with us as a parent that has been either maybe embarrassing as you look back at it now, maybe a funny, hysterical story that you have as a parent?
Funny. Oh gosh. Funny, hysterical story. Well, okay. And I had to think quick here on my feet. So our daughter, and I encourage, if your child plays sports, and don't, my opinion, and I've helped a lot of parents, don't have them in like 52 sports. Like, let them pick one that they love, or a sport for each season, because you shouldn't be driven crazy. That's a whole other topic as a parent, like running your kids.
That's not for now, but a very good point.
And things. And yeah, like, don't have them. They don't need to play 10 instruments and be in 17 sports and be in 14 clubs at school. Like, take a step back. But anyway, so funny. So our daughter, she was on the swim team young. I just wanted her to learn how to swim. I wanted her to be a good swimmer. I didn't care about, winning anything. So her love is tennis. So she, eventually, as she got older, left the swim team because she picked one sport. So for 14 years, she played tennis. So my funny story is, I was like the tennis team, snack mom. And, they're like, okay, what are you bringing? And so, because of what I do for a living, I would bring, fun things, and we'd bake, brownies and stuff like that, and cookies and all that. But everybody would laugh because I would always bring, something healthy, or I would always bring like the gluten-free, and they're like, oh, okay, here you go. Here she comes, and I always had like the veggies, or the little, carrots and the cut up fruit. But I always had like gluten-free stuff. And I always had not, things with gluten in it. So my daughter's friends were over after a match one time. And my husband and I we come in, and the one kids are in the cabinet getting snacks because they were gluten free. I'm like, hey, I just caught you in the cookie jar, So they knew, because the kids from the soccer fields, the football fields, they would come over and say, oh, your mom has gluten-free stuff, and then she has regular stuff. And so we came home one night from dinner, and they were in the cabinet. It was hilarious and they were more than welcome to get snacks at our house. But I saw these kids, they were like, oh, they're home. They caught us in the snack cabinet. But they knew I always had gluten-free things and then not gluten-free things. But it was just a lot of fun. It's not like super duper funny, but all the kids from all the other sports would come over when they knew it was like my tennis
That's
match,
awesome.
like to be the snack mom, because I would have everything, fruits, vegetables, gluten-free things, and then gluten things with gluten. But
yeah, well, hopefully
we had a lot of fun.
All of the households that we have people listening to this podcast, we have a similar type of household. As we wrap it up over here, 3 rapid fire questions over here. Well, you just answered the first one. I'm curious if you would recommend another book that, from the topics that we talked about today, but more importantly for parents to know more about nutrition and what they're giving their kids. Is there a book that you would recommend?
So I'm going to share with you a couple of chefs, actually, and doctors that you can look up, that it's just really fascinating information. I was trained by Dr. John McDougall as well. And these doctors are all in their 80s and 90s, but McDougall. If you go on Amazon and just put Dr. John McDougall, he's a medical doctor, retired, practiced medicine for 50 years. If you go on Amazon and get some of Dr. McDougall's books, and his wife, Mary, is a registered nurse, retired. So she writes a lot of cookbooks. So if you go on Amazon when you're getting the China study that I gave you as homework, and you grab one of any of them, he's excellent. He was very, very ill at 19 years old. The medical doctors couldn't help him. And he said, I'm going to become a medical doctor and really learn how to help people get well. And he teaches whole food, plant-based nutrition, and he has for 50 years. So any of Dr. John McDougall's books, and Mary, his wife, has terrific, helpful recipes. The other, and this is just more help because I get it as busy parents. So this is a book that'll help you and your kids in the kitchen. Okay. And I don't know her. I was trained by some wonderful plant-based chefs. I was not trained by this lady, although I think she's terrific. So if you also grab some books by Chef Lindsay Nixon, I think it's Lindsay, and Nixon, like President Nixon, the former President Nixon, Lindsay Nixon. She's known as the happy herbivore. And listen, busy moms, busy dads out there, she writes great cookbooks that kids of all ages, and you as a busy parent, yes, there's flour and some things and all that, but Lindsay Nixon gives you some great ideas in the kitchen that you could put together treats and things for young kids, teenagers, treats to send off to your kids in college. And she just makes it fun. But I think Lindsay Nixon's cookbooks and the Happy Herbivore would be very helpful for parents and your kids too.
Okay, that's great. And just for our listeners, the documentary that we were talking about earlier, Forks Over Knives, can also be found on Amazon and not just Netflix. My last question for you today, if you can think of a mundane, regular superpower that you would like to have as a parent to help your parenting, what would that be?
My superpower as a healthy parent, honestly, and I think you're going to love this because you're in mental health. Honestly, and I pride myself, I try to do this best of my ability. Honestly, it is communication. Get the education about nutrition and health, and get the gold standard science-based education, that I teach and the medical doctors that train me. Get the education, and the superpower is communication. And the better you can talk to your kids and the easier you can talk. And like I used to say, take it down a notch. It's not about being in their face. It's not about yelling and screaming and like, I can't believe you ate all those cookies, before dinner. It's not that. It's just, it's like anything. When we're in business or we're in our profession and we're talking to another adult, if someone's in your face and that you're a mental health professional, you're like, take a step back. But if someone just stops for a minute and slows down, talks slower, talks a little softer, and you respect your child through the communication and just say, this is why we're going to do this in the kitchen, or this is why we're going to switch out this, and I always told my daughter and myself, like, I love you more than life itself. And you know what? If you love me when they get older, like, look, let's, learn this together. And it's get the education as a parent and then distill it through communication. It's really effective communication.
So I think part of that superpower. Yeah, I think part of that superpower is also restraint, personal restraint, and knowing how to go about things, which is, I think that's one that's all of us parents can use. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure. And I hope that learners were able to learn today as much as I did. And thank you so much for sharing everything today.
Absolutely. Such a pleasure to be here. It's always a joy to talk with you. And good luck, everyone. And God bless.